Nigeria's total merchandise trade dropped marginally by 1.2% to hit 12.8 trillion naira in the second quarter of this year, but rose about 32.2% year-on-year. Meanwhile, total exports rose 4.3% in the quarter under review. Now, Bamidele Ayemibo, an expert and export consultant, joins me to unpack some of these numbers. Thank you very much for joining me on the show today. Bamidele, let's start off now looking at the ratio, the import and export value, the overall import and export value. Now, we have an export value of about 7.4 trillion naira, and import value overall at about 5.4 trillion naira. And the major elements we are seeing here for our exports is dominated by crude oil exports. Really now, when we're having an agenda towards non-oil export, how does this report tilt the balance?
The report shows an increase in exports, but unfortunately, it's still likely contributed by crude. And I mean, as I was listening to the news about the oil theft and the decline in August,
Yes.
I'm looking at maybe we'll have a decline in Q3 reports of trade because of all these issues you just talked about.
Exactly.
Because significantly, non-oil still hovers around 9, 10, 11, 12% of the total exports. So the increase we are seeing, because that report shows that, okay, there is increase in total trade, but there is a decline in import and an increase in export. So the increase in total trade is actually as a result of export contribution. And if you look at year-on-year of export, a significant increase. Between 2021 and 2022, Q2, I mean, almost 50% increase. And even Q1 and Q2, there's an increase. So, but like I said, the contribution is still largely not as a result of non-oil, which is what we've been talking about, but largely contributed by oil. Yes. And with what is happening with the theft, crude oil theft and reduction in the production and the export, of course, we expect Q3 result to be a lot worse than this.
And that also holds a very devastating impact as well for our foreign exchange earnings, because oil remains our major foreign exchange earner now. We're also seeing that Pengassan is on a strike and is also threatening 30 days of shutdown if we don't have this lingering issue of oil theft attended to by government. But looking at now the conversation around the re-export destinations, we have the likes of Côte d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, Cameroon, and also Turkey. Let's talk about how these economies also pose a competition for the giant of Africa that's not necessarily positioning itself as a hub for production.
We really, I mean, not just with what you just said now, I feel we'll be able to leverage on trade to those regions if we take AFCFTA a lot seriously.
That's if we do.
AFCFTA yes, that if we do. I mean, of course, that if we do, if we're able to take that a lot seriously, because, you know, what I think will help our non-oil export to grow is export of manufactured goods to African countries. And that is what AFCFTA has made possible to us. And with the guided trade expected to be done this month, Ghana and the other countries leading the way in that guided trade, we need to take non-oil exports seriously, because that's actually where we'll be able to grow, because of the fact that we now have an easy opportunity to many other African countries to be able to trade, since we've not been able to do a lot in the commodity space. And even when we do, we are not earning enough because of the pricing of those products. I think it's extremely important, if we're going to be competitive, to really consider trade within Africa and taking the AFCFTA a lot seriously.
Okay, now, Bamidele, let's look at the conversation now, leveraging on our biggest pointers. We have the major exports coming from the mineral sector, also looking at chemical and allied industries, and then looking at the fact that we're also seeing vegetable products also pull a strong wing. How do we now begin to leverage on these areas of comparative advantages, bringing into focus the need for us to also have stronger hubs of production here in Nigeria, irrespective of insecurity challenges, irrespective of the logistics and infrastructure challenges? How do we just make it all make sense, leveraging on this report?
The state government should begin to take exports seriously by themselves to earn income directly. Let's take the mineral sector, for example. There are a number of states in Nigeria that can get technical partners to come in and mine the product in their state registering a company under which that activity will be done, and paying royalty to the federal government, and exporting for themselves, generate income directly, just like we are doing for oil. I'm just imagining we're in election season. Can we begin to ask the governors, look, you want to build school, you want to build road, you want to do this and that. How do you want to raise the money? Why are you not looking at empowering SME in your state to grow their non-oil export volume, and you yourself contributing to the non-oil export by exporting as a state and generating the foreign exchange? I think the state can do a lot in this regard.
Bamidele, if I'm important here, for the lack of time,
yes,
we have barely 2 minutes to wrap up this conversation. Now, we also had the governors make recommendations to the federal government, the presidency, the Buhari administration, as is gradually wrapping up, and then we have the elections come next year. Now, in terms of policy direction, addressing policy somersault, how much of a clean slate do you think the next government would have? And then how much of an economic agenda does such paper and presentations bring to the fore?
There must be a deliberate effort to grow non-oil export. Let me give you an example. CBN have come up with a program. I feel the federal government should own that program. It shouldn't be just CBN driving it alone, because the fact that CBN alone is doing it means NEPC is not really keen into it the way they should, because it's seen as a CBN idea. But that should be a federal government idea, Ministry of Trade idea, and working together to revise that policy, put it together in a way that everybody can rally around it and can contribute significantly. And the reason is this: because of the incentive being paid by CBN to exporters, is encouraging a lot of exporters to bring in their export proceeds back to Nigeria. And that will significantly contribute to the non-oil export we're expecting to grow, and of course the export proceeds we're expecting after.
And we also have the NIPC also present the books of states looking at investment promotion, and then we also have to look at the agenda as well for export as well. We need more concerted efforts, wouldn't you say, in terms of synergy between investment promotion and our export base, and then this conversation with state governments. Let's talk about that as we wrap up.
NIPC have a lot of role to play, because they are the one, they are like a doorway into people bringing investment into Nigeria. And they should be encouraging investment in agri, not just agri, agro-processing, and probably create an incentive program for those coming in for agro-processing for the purpose of export. Not just agro-processing to sell locally, for the purpose of export. And of course, minerals. I think a sector of the economy we have neglected so much. We speak a lot about agri, but we've not done a lot in the area of minerals.